It's interesting that, with all the great feats of mankind, with so many of the world's problems solved, our fear of the end grows further and further. Is it the fear of a lack of purpose, or the fear that the things we develop will soon have unintended consequences? Think about the last time you heard about the end of humanity. Think about the last time you heard about nuclear war. You hear it often, don't you? The doomsday clock stands as a metaphor for the end of humanity from a man-made cause, and it currently stands at 100 seconds from midnight. But let me tell you that there have been times when we were only seconds away from midnight. It's November the 5th, 1956, but it's not like any peaceful day of November. Instead, there's a war raging on between Israel and Egypt. It's the Second Arab-Israeli War, and the United Kingdom and France are around to help Israel. Israel was motivated to gain control of the Suez Canal as leverage for Western powers to remove Egyptian President Jamal Abdel Nasser from power. As these events were unfolding, the United States, Soviet Union, and the United Nations were pressuring countries involved to withdraw their forces. Consequently, on November 2nd, a letter to Eden, Prime Minister of the UK, explained that Eden needed to halt the invasions as it would be too costly, politically and economically. Nikita Khrushchev, leader of the USSR at the time, had threatened Britain, France, and Israel that he would send forces to bomb their major cities if they did not halt their invasions. On November the 5th, this was expressed clearly in letters by Nikolai Bulganin. It was on that day that the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, received several reports of unidentified aerial objects over Turkey, MiG-15 fighters over Syria, a British Canberra medium bomber, and a Soviet Black Sea fleet making unexpected movements through Dardanelles. All this seemed to be a signal to the US that a Soviet offensive was imminent. To that belief, the US prepared NATO for an offensive involving nuclear warheads, and at any second, war could have occurred. Turns out, all reports were extremely misinterpreted and exaggerated. What were the objects detected then? Swans over Turkey, a flight of Syrian President Shukli al-Quwatli returning from Moscow, a mechanical issue causing British bombers to go down, and a scheduled exercise of a Soviet fleet. Needless to say, no one would have expected their flesh to burn on that day. It's January 24th, 1961, and a Boeing B-52 Stratofortress is carrying two 3 to 4 megaton nuclear payloads. Near Goldsboro, North Carolina, these payloads break up mid-air heading to the ground. Pilot Walter Scott Tulloch orders the crew to eject. 5 land safely, but 3 others don't make it alive. While no bomb goes off upon impact, information declassified in 2013 revealed that only a single switch was preventing the bomb from being detonated. 3 other switches were ready to burn Goldsboro off the face of the earth. Parker F. Johnson, a supervisor of the Nuclear Weapons Safety Department at Sandia National Laboratories, also reported that a short circuit could have ended up in a nuclear explosion. This time, it wouldn't be the USSR, but the US itself responsible for its own people's demise. And it would have been even more interesting to know what response would have accompanied that event. However, on second thought, it's good we will never know. There was, however, a time when one would have expected their flesh to burn. The Cuban Missile Crisis is definitely the tensest moment of the Cold War. During the crisis, the US expected a sabotage operation by the Soviet Union in the event of a strike. Around midnight on October 25, 1962, a guard at Duluth Sector Direction Center saw a figure climb the security fence and started shooting. This activated the sabotage alarm, which also set off other alarms in the region. This caused a faulty alarm system that sounded the Kolx and ordered Air Defense Command with nuclear weapons into the air. The base commander contacted Duluth and was told that the alarm was an error. An officer had to drive his car onto the runway to signal the aircraft with nuclear weapons to stop. Also, the figure turned out to be a bear, not exactly something the Soviets would have deployed for a sabotage operation. On March 15, 1980, a Soviet submarine near Kuril Islands was conducting a military exercise when it launched 4 missiles. American early warning sensors suggested that one or more of the missiles were aimed towards the US. The US had to begin a threat assessment conference to determine if the threat was directed towards the US. The pressure was building as they believed that any second missiles would strike the coast. However, soon it was determined that it was not a threat, and the world would see another day. World War III has been implied as a possible event for almost a century, and has been an even more popular occurrence ever since the Cold War ended. With the development of the nuclear weapons in the Manhattan Project and the disaster caused by the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, many countries fear the potential risk of a nuclear apocalypse that would destroy all of human civilization. Another concern to varying degrees has been biological warfare, as scientists have found ways to create pathogens through genetic modifications. On February 24, 2022, Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered a special military operation implying an invasion of the Luhansk and Donetsk regions of Ukraine. This has become the largest military conflict in Europe since World War II. Increased pressure from the West with sanctions and United States involvement in the war has made the situation resemble a proxy war parallel to something from the Cold War. Historian Yuval Noah Harari has described the war as the most dangerous moment in world history since the Cuban Missile Crisis. There have been many possible scenarios for human destruction. Decisions now and in the future can provide a glimmer of hope, but that also contradicts the possibility of no doomsday scenario at all. So there may be a time, once again, when we were only seconds away from midnight.